And away we go. Should be live now. So good afternoon. I don't actually know who's here because the old stream's done a refresh. I can't see what's doing. So yeah,
I'll get it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Staying Connected, episode 27. Believe it or not,
27.
Many episodes in.
Who would have thought it? Not me.
This is like the longest week of my damn life, and it's like Wednesday. Just like me and Daniel just having a very in-depth conversation about like the world and that.
I know.
It's great.
Just gotta take it one day at a time, buddy. And I think that
deep breath at a time. I think.
I know. I would suggest to people that like it's good to not be too active on social media. I think because I think social media can really start to if you get too plugged in. So it's good if maybe you don't have to delete your account or anything, but obviously
I would recommend
step away from it.
Just I think having that many people's opinions rammed down your throat every 10 seconds, possibly not very good for your mental health, especially not when they're arguing.
I've seen people online recently, like in flame wars, and then I spoke to them about it, and I'm like, dude, like you're right, and they're like, I don't even know why this is. They're like, I just want to chill out. They're like, I don't even want to be involved in this, and it's like, I just feel like people, are getting so caught up in it. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's a pretty insane time.
The other thing that I'm having a massive problem with is some of the, I wouldn't necessarily say friends, but some of the people I have connected with online have expressed some views that I see as problematic, and that really gets it doesn't even annoy us sometimes. It really gets us down. That people I know and some people I like as well, and you can still like them, but the fact that they think like that, and then I think, can I be bothered to have this conversation at 10:30 at night when I'm just about to go to bed? Not really. So I'm just like, close. See you later. Deal with
that's kind of where I was going about the whole staying off social media thing, because I feel like these kind of things, and it's I think I've felt the same way as you, bro, and for when I'm seeing that, I don't want to engage in it because I don't want it to ruin my day, because I don't want to end up in a massive because I don't know that if that person's posting something that I don't think I'm necessarily gonna be able to change their mind. So it's tough, man.
You can't sneak in. Can't sneak it in. At least I just printed some stuff off. Don't worry.
Yeah. No worries.
Man. I think the other thing is I don't like really doing stuff like that on Facebook. I'm quite happy to talk to anyone about anything. I'd rather do it like this, where you can actually gauge how they're reacting and stuff, and have an actual conversation rather than an argument.
Also, the thing is
we've got Wib and Charlotte who've said
hello guys, so welcome to the session. I think as well here from boy, it's on Facebook, it's I think could be interpreted a million different ways. And I think people, and it's hard to tell if someone's in good faith, or it's just hard to kind of decipher people's true meaning when you can't hear the intonation in the voice. You can't have a full conversation with them, and not just that, but you run the risk of being misinterpreted yourself.
Definitely,
obviously, because
people think you're being you're having a go, or you're attacking them personally, when really you're just expressing your opinion, which I think is fine.
Man, and that's the thing, and I totally agree, because I think that as well. I feel like people have been more active on social media lately.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? So, and it's tough, man. And
I think,
it's,
to be honest, it's just just exhausted of having an opinion. I read stuff sometimes. I'm like, I know what I think. I just can't be bothered to put it into words. So I think you're right. Just not avoid it, but also, just bear it in mind that you shouldn't let it ruin your day, basically.
And also, you shouldn't feel, you're perfectly welcome to have your own thoughts and to discuss it with your friends and your loved ones, but you're not obligated to post about that on social media. If that's something that's you want to keep to yourself, you're more than welcome to as well. You know what I mean? You don't have to be compelled into saying anything, really. So,
and I also think you probably shouldn't be going around belittling someone based on what they think.
Definitely.
So totally. We'll leave it at that. I think.
Okay, I know this is
going about this for about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I know, 100%, man.
So hopefully you guys are having a good week. Like I said, it seems to be like the longest week that's ever existed for me. It's Wednesday, but we'll see. On the plus side, Mel did a very nice cooking stream earlier and had some nice bit of carrot cake, so that was good. So I don't know if Mel's watching, but thanks for that.
Sounds good, man.
What else we got? Yeah, so there's been a bunch of stuff happened this week, and we're going to sort of talk about some of it, but in the more positive light than not, because it seems like a lot's happening. The first one that we've got in terms of little headlines, and let's jump over to there, is you sent me this one, Daniel. So it's a Belgian retired doctor walking the marathon, and he's
do you know what it is? From what I saw,
103-year-old.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I saw, I was expecting to read the article, and I thought he was going to be like, I thought he was going to say, "Oh, well, I saw what Tom Moore did, and I was like really inspired and stuff like that." But what I saw that he said was like, "I saw what Tom Moore did, and he was like, I could do that." And then so that's what it was. So it wasn't like I was expecting him to say I was really
inspired.
That was so nice. But he was just like, "Nah, I can do that." So that's more of what it looked like he said. But basically, yeah. So he. Similar to Tom, as a 103-year-old man, he's walking a marathon in his garden, and Belgian retired doctor. So, and it's for coronavirus efforts, relief funds as well. So, which is great. So,
yeah, so he struck a chord, equivalent of $40 million. So that's who gave him the idea. So I guess it was in a way. He's inspiration.
For sure.
So he recalls people falling sick during the 57-58 Asian flu pandemic, but recovering much more quickly than those affected by the novel coronavirus in recent months. As a doctor, I feel touched by this, and that's why I was happy now that I might be able to contribute something to fight the coronavirus. So yeah, good on him.
There you go.
Good job. There he is. I assume that's his garden, even though it looks like a bit of like a rainforest or whatever, but he's trotting around in it there. We've got Matthew in there now. Anthony's here as well.
Cracking with the full team in.
Yeah.
Bar a couple.
Charlotte's just saying, this is why she only uses social media for her artwork. It's a good call, to be honest.
Yeah.
Everyone, like I was saying a couple weeks ago, everyone becomes like a doctor or a media consultant or a
biologist.
A biologist. A political commentator, a conspiracy. As soon as you log in, you've got all your friends who you like went to school with and that are just like instant experts because they've Googled like Black Lives Matter or they've Googled like coronavirus and copied and pasted the Wikipedia. And stuff. Everyone maybe just calm down a little bit. Like,
it's mad, dude. I've seen people that like. Or maybe went to school with who know each other, like arguing with each other that never would have spoke to each other otherwise, and it's just like so crazy that it's like
chill out and relax and that.
Yeah.
So the next one is sort of tied to recent events that aren't the coronavirus, and that is I can't say this place. Like, is it Chattanooga?
Chattanooga, I would say so. Yeah, Chichester.
Right, hang on, because I'm getting all the cookie preferences right there.
Yeah.
Come on, man! I don't want to submit me advertising cookies. Just let us go.
Is it one of those ones where it tells you it's like these are the cookies you can have? It's like what?
And then it's like 4 million things that are going into all the marketing companies and that.
I know.
Anyway, the headline is Chattanooga. PD chief updates policy requires officers to intervene in police brutality.
Yeah, and obviously this... is
that in Tennessee then? It's Chattanooga.
Let's find out, because I actually don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know, mate, so we'll soon find out. Chattanooga is in Tennessee, yeah. So, it's good for a couple of reasons. Obviously, I don't know much about Chattanooga, but I think that one of the reasons it's good for it's something that you would imagine would just be in every single policy anyway. But the fact that they're actually putting it into a policy, I think is great because, if it's fresh on the minds of police, then they're going to kind of intervene if they are, or they have a duty to intervene if there was any kind of police brutality going on. So I think that's great. And there was another article here from that I forgot to share to you, mate, but it was that France I believe, banning police from doing chokeholds when they're restraining people. So I think that, these kind of policy changes, I think, are very crucial and important. Things like banning chokeholds. And just because, right, it creates more clarity, when going forward, because you can say, well, he had him in a chokehold and that's illegal because that's already been established.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to do that, because instead of saying, oh, well, there was this and this, it makes less of that, because you can just say, no, chokeholds are banned. And also this policy as well. I think that it's a move in the right direction.
Well, there's the snippet that's been added to the police code, so it's like part of their code of conduct. So each department member has the individual responsibility to intervene and stop any other member from committing an unlawful or improper act, including but not limited to acts of brutality, abuses of power, abuses of authority, and any other criminal acts or major violations of department rules and procedures. Successful intervention does not negate a duty to report. So not only do you have to report it, not only do you have to intervene, to prevent any of that, they also have to report it, even if they do successfully intervene.
Yeah.
Which, again, like you say, I think it's more about accountability. I think that's been my main takeaway from it all, is that you shouldn't be able to get away with what they did, with what happened in any way, shape or form. I think that the whole, there's a lot of sort of debate around it, again, online, a lot of it, but a lot of it in the mainstream press as well. And I think the other thing I would say on it is, I think people have gotten themselves a little bit carried away at times in this country, and they need to realise that it's not necessarily the same in terms of use of force, but it is still worth talking about. I think to just dismiss it completely would be irresponsible and say, oh, well, we don't have that problem here. I would say that the way we deal with it is slightly different, so it needs to be looked at on a case by case. But the movement itself started on the back of this, or got more publicity on the back of this, like a blatant case of police brutality. So the conversation has to be around this, and keep the focus to this, because it's quite easy for people on both sides to sling mud and see what sticks. But this is a good thing, step in the right direction, I think.
Definitely, because I think that the system won't change until there's policy changes, and if this is a policy change, then that's obviously a step towards in the right direction.
And what I would also say as well is this is going to be far more powerful than, say, like a company or like the senators taking a knee for a minute of silence. Like that's
the thing.
What you're doing there is you're just performing. You show the people that you're on their side, with you, not with your actions, doing your job. You're not bringing in any real change. All you're doing is lying to them and saying you're on their side. What you need to do is look at the way things are done.
I totally agree. Like, that's such a good point. I think that these kind of more sentimental gestures, I think, are very nice, and they do get attention, which is good. But I completely agree that the only way the change will happen is from policy, legislation, and actually, changing stuff in the system, like literally making kind of things that are actually going to, have change because of them actually putting policies in place.
I think that's going to be it. And I think, to be fair, that's the way to do it, and good on them. At least they're trying something. You know what I mean? It's not a response of, oh, well, we're not going to do anything. It's a step in the right direction, like you say. We'll keep an eye on it. Lots is going to come out, and you're going to read lots online, and lots is going to happen in terms of over the next, I would say even between now and Friday, I'd imagine. So just keep an eye, and like I say, try and look focus on the more positive things, like the police reacting to it and being able to take the criticism and do something about it, which is nice to see. Anthony was saying there's a young double leg amputated lad doing a fundraising walk too, and I think Lynn was on about the same lad called Tony, and it's amazing what he's doing. So I've asked if anyone can send me the link to that, because I haven't actually come across that story yet. So even if you don't find it for this week, if you can find it, we'll include it in one of the other streams, one of the other Staying Connected ones.
Brilliant.
Lynn is saying, I agree with you guys, but I'm not allowed to speak either because my mic does not make me racist. No, I think that's part of the other part of the problem as well is people feel like they're excluded from certain discussions, and I think it's a discussion. But like what I was saying with Daniel, I try not to do a lot of that stuff on social media because I feel like what you say can be taken out of context quite easily. Or
Definitely.
if I write something, you can't really gauge what I meant by it without us being able to express it in person. The other thing I think as well is people jump on. You've got like your social media sort of agitators where they'll post stuff to get a reaction, and I think that really doesn't help at the time as well. So post a story, well, can't believe they're doing this, like about the people who started rioting after a protest, whereas they're two separate things. The people rioting aren't necessarily part of the peaceful protest. And you know, certain, not all police officers are bad. They couldn't possibly be, otherwise, you know, it wouldn't. It wouldn't work if all police officers in the entire country, if just the US, for example, were bad. There would be no way the society could function in any way. So
it would be total mayhem. Yeah, it's so true. And you've
got to try and look at things as grey, not black and white, as it were.
Definitely. And I feel like what you're saying is because at the moment we've had that kind of, it's just that the way that the kind of political system is anyway at the moment, where we've had like so many people who were like very far on the right, and then we've had a lot of people who are quite far on the left.
Yeah.
And then
polarizing.
Such a massive so it's
complete opposite,
because politics is so polarized. And I think what you're saying, it's like it needs to be a lot more kind of in that gray area. And with us having such kind of people, it's so bipartisan now that it's unreal. Like it's like people are all left or they're all right.
Well, it's like tribalism, right? That's what they call it in this country. Political tribalism, which means that you vote a certain way, and no matter what that party does or what that person does, you agree with them, which is really dangerous. Exactly. And to be honest, it's exactly what they want, because that means that they'll always stay in power. They'll never be held accountable because you'll always have their back, even though they're doing things that aren't necessarily in your interests. And that happens on both. Don't get us wrong, that happens across the board. And it's definitely perspective. It's I think especially now more than ever, it's about having a bit of empathy for everyone.
For sure.
Can you see it from someone's point of view? Because what you'll see, and it'll keep banging on. It's been happening. I mean, since I've been aware of it, every election, every vote, every referendum, the people will try and divide you based on things like, you know, race and class and ethnicity and gender and what religion and whatever it is. They want that because they know they can pander to demographic. They want to put you in a box so they can get your vote by pandering to that view. And it's
definitely
don't know how I got into that, but there it is.
No, but
try not to make it too, like I say, it's not.
I know it's like we're just. To be honest, I think me and Haytham equally both try, and we don't try to engage in this too much. And you know, I feel like we always end up because of so much stuff that's happening, we end up getting like kind of dragged into it a bit. And I think that we're both, you know, we both will admit that when like anything that we say is like, you know, we are just like we're not qualified to like talk about social political issues.
Moron when it comes to that sort of thing.
So you know what I mean. So and obviously just to kind of.
It's just like I say, but it's a discussion. Like this isn't us telling you how it is. This is just like Lynn says, it's perspective. So it's just how you see things. Yeah. And I always try to see things from every possible side.
That's it. Yeah.
Charlotte's saying there's definitely a step. So talking about the story again. So this is definitely a right step forward, and thinking protection should be in place for black people and others alike. So things like this can never happen again. And that's the core of the issue, really, is that what happened to George Floyd shouldn't happen to anyone.
Definitely.
You should never be choked to death for what is like a in terms of the crime he was accused of, nothing serious. And
when you know, he hasn't resisted arrest. There's evidence showing that he didn't resist arrest, and it's like absolutely, you know, exactly right.
You know, social media good and bad, but if social media hadn't existed, would this have got to the scale it has? No. So you know, like I say, you take everything with a pinch of salt and look at both sides, because we have the the ability to hold people accountable now as well, which is good. So there are downsides to it, but there's good things can come out of it as well.
And totally, like, I don't want to, focus on it too much, but I think that if without the protests, I don't think that the level of accountability, I think that the fact that, that the cops getting charged and things like that, I think that's a direct response to the protest. And I think obviously without the protest, that wouldn't have happened. And I think that's quite plain.
Yeah.
Just aside from everything else. So obviously there is with the protest, there's obviously the positives, which as something like that, is the.
And you, people are people, man. Like, I don't know, like, you're always going to get people who take it too far. Like Lynn's saying there, we're all average people doing our thing, and that's how it is. Yeah. We're not extreme in any way. And that's, there's always going to be people who overstep and do something that the vast majority of others don't agree with. And it's going to happen. But at the end of the day, people just want to be heard. And the cause that they want to be heard for isn't, to me, offensive in any way.
No.
And the timing's not great with the coronavirus happening, and there's been some quite irresponsible things happening, but the reaction alone to say the protests when the armed resistance movement or whatever it was in America stormed all the town halls with guns and demanded that the lockdown be ended, and then you look at that, the reaction to that from the US government and authorities, and then you look at the reaction to the Black Lives Matter protests, and it's two completely contrasting reactions, and it's like, wow, it's just it makes you wonder. Makes me wonder.
And it's kind of it goes back to what we're saying about the polarization in politics at the moment, and
but it's not even just political. That's a response within the institutions. Like that goes back far beyond. Yeah, I totally agree. Far beyond the Trump administration. Like, you can't blame Trump for. You can blame him for his response. His personal response has been, I'll say, sketchy at best, bordering on outrageous. But you can't blame him for the whole thing. There's no way.
No. No. Well, yeah, it's embedded.
Systemic, definitely.
Yeah, it's systemic, and it's been embedded into their system for a long time. So yeah.
So anyway, New Zealand, they're doing a good job.
So yeah, let's
New Zealand
we can talk about this with the
coronavirus eliminated. That's in air quotes. The coronavirus, and life can resume without restrictions from midnight on Monday. So while the whole world is following the social distancing norms, New Zealand is set to lift all restrictions and resume public and private events, retail, hospitality industries, and public transport. I think the Prime Minister's name again? I always forget her name.
Oh, mate, did you put Jacinda something?
It's Jacinda. Yeah, I can't remember. I always forget her name.
So Jacinda. That obviously me and Haytham spoke about this a couple of times. New Zealand related coronavirus.
They sort of knocked it out of the park really with the response. To be fair, so I watched the video. Actually, I seen it on Facebook. So she was saying, we are confident we've eliminated the transmission of the virus in New Zealand for now. The elimination is not a point in time. She was saying it's just a sustained effort. So it's similar to here in terms of the theory behind it.
Yeah.
The theory being that if they see a spike again, they'll bring the measures back in. So according to the Health Ministry, New Zealand has reported 1.15 infections and 22 deaths from the coronavirus. I think that's meant to be 1,000, is it? Not 1.
How much? Yeah, I would imagine so.
Like one and a bit infections, somehow 22. Yeah, so 1,154 infections and 22 deaths from coronavirus since it arrived in late February. Is it Jacinda Ardern? Ardern? Has seen phenomenal popularity across the world. Yeah, it is, and handling the coronavirus pandemic. So apparently she said she did a little dance when she was told there were no more active cases. Caught a little bit by surprise as well. I had no idea she was dancing, apparently.
I've seen some viral videos of them doing a kind of countdown. So it was quite entertaining.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
So
there.
Charlotte has said the technology we have today with cameras and that we film things like this and we make it more. It makes me scared how many more crimes like this before technology will go at this point as it is today. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean. So, you know, without that video going as viral as it did and all the major news organisations picking it up, like, would anything have even come of it? Really, like, there would have been some outrage, but if it hadn't been caught on film,
Yeah.
couldn't say for sure what would have happened. Matthew's saying as long as protests stay peaceful and keep up until there's a clear direction for change, policies towards policing crime, the response would be a lot better. Yeah, I think the certain wings of the police department in certain cities have done themselves no favours in terms of the reaction and response. I've seen a few threads on Twitter linking to Google Docs as well of examples from different cities where the police have been inciting violence against peaceful protesters, just macing them and breaking windows and cars themselves and dropping off like piles of bricks and sort of blocking in protesters, telling them to go home, but they couldn't go home because they were blocked into like a 2-block radius and stuff.
I know that the special force team that after that the 75-year-old man, after he was shoved over, that like all of the officers, the 94 officers I think in that unit, all resigned after that.
Did you see why they resigned though?
Because of it, because the 2 officers who did got suspended, right?
So it was in solidarity over the officers getting suspended, not because they were appalled that a 75-year-old bloke was in the intensive care.
Exactly.
But you know what it is? If that's your mentality and you can't accept that was unacceptable as a police officer, I don't think you should be a police officer. Based on the threat that he was posing, I don't think that was warranted in any way.
And it's like what Charlotte just said, right? You know, we've all seen the footage, and that's there. It is what it is, you know.
And even the press has been attacked, though. That's the one of the most worrying things. Like press organisations that are
global press, right? I mean, they've got like so many pending lawsuits with global news outlets. Australia, and many more have came out and said, you know, we got attacked.
I think, to be fair, there's a lot of stress being placed on, especially the emergency services, and I don't imagine that the mental health services are really set up to cope for people like the police. So I was reading the other day, some of the training programs are only 5 weeks long, like, and some people are becoming police officers like straight out of high school in America as well, which, without much vetting really, you know, you do your 5-week basic training course at 18 and then they hand you your gun and your badge and off you go. Like, you're not going to know how to react to these situations, to be honest.
I saw Rogan posted something. It was about like that the police officers should have like Brazilian jiu-jitsu training, and I think that makes a lot of sense because, or
like Krav Maga.
Because then they actually learn how to like effectively you neutralize someone, but without using any kind of excessive force.
Judo's the same, right? Judo.
Exactly.
Literally means the gentle way, but fully effective at restraining someone. So
restrain's a better word than neutralize.
Neutralize.
I said neutralize.
You sound like a germ or something like that. Restrain. We'll go with restrain.
Restrain someone. I think that's the better one.
A bit nicer. Anyway, British scientists are bypassing drug giants to sell potential coronavirus vaccine.
This is awesome, I think. I love this. I like, from my understanding, these people are working on a coronavirus vaccine, and they're like a bunch of scientists and researchers, and they're doing really good work. And they've decided that instead of selling their findings, they have decided to pair up with a social enterprise, because instead of, if they sold it to
like
big pharma,
big pharmaceutical company,
so if they sold it to a big pharmaceutical company, they can then patent it, and then they can sell it for like an extortionate amount of money. But with them pairing up with a social enterprise, it guarantees that the poorest people in society are still going to be able to have access to this stuff. So for me, this is something that I really like. I'm really on board with.
So right now, we think the focus should be on how to solve the problem rather than how to make money out of it. I can almost see like the mustache twiddling like CEO of all the big pharmaceutical companies is like throwing his laptop on the floor and like stamping on his phone and that, because they'll be fuming with this.
Exactly. There you go.
So social enterprise fits with our mission, applying scientific discoveries for the benefit of society. There is intense pressure to develop the vaccine, which has already cost hundreds of thousands of lives and millions of jobs globally. There's about 100 candidates in development apparently so far. I'm just seeing, because it does mention in here, doesn't it, about the clinical trials at Oxford University, which we covered a little bit. I think they were set to be just over 1,000 people do the sort of participate in the trial.
I believe so, yeah.
So rather than partnering with one company, Imperial is looking to team up with multiple manufacturers, which could include the pharmaceutical company, so it won't exclude them, because obviously they have the biggest sort of reach in terms of being able to create and distributor. That's the one.
Yeah.
Imperial College is waiving royalties and will charge a modest amount for the vaccination, which was developed with funding from the British government and philanthropic organisations to cover its costs. So hopefully that policy will continue, and it's basically to make it either affordable for the countries, or if it's in the likes of America with the private healthcare system, affordable. And other countries across the world as well, and other organisations, which I think is really good. Not having it exclusivity right, so you don't get like a Martin Shkreli kind of scenario, where basically someone owns the cure. That's what they're basically trying to avoid here, which is really
good. Exactly. Yeah, so I'm totally all for that.
Definitely. And that was 2 days ago, so we'll keep an eye on that one. So yeah, I think one of the vaccinations that's in development is the one that we talked about a few weeks ago, when it's under clinical trials at Oxford Uni. So like I say, we'll keep an eye, and hopefully, we'll cross the fingers, we might have an affordable vaccine on the way.
Yeah.
Couldn't say how long it would take. I think the estimates are still... hang on. The stream might have dropped out for a second. Let's have a look. Dropped some frames right there. It's saying, okay, I'm back apparently. I don't even know if it went off.
Seems alright.
I got about 4 like little flash of messages saying that it was all going wrong. Might have just dropped out for a second. So yeah, hopefully, I haven't read on like a time scale for the vaccinations yet, but this is promising news, and there's a lot more money being sort of thrown at it now, which I think was half the problem initially. There wasn't really a fund for it, so hopefully with the government money and all the charity money as well that's been thrown in there, we'll see. We'll cross our fingers and hope for the best. So the other one that I had
100% no.
Was I just happened across this one on Facebook. Actually, there was finally some good news on Facebook. It's posted yesterday. So Britain goes coal-free as renewables edge out fossil fuels. So Britain is about to pass a significant landmark at midnight on Wednesday, which is tonight, obviously. It will have gone 2 full months without burning coal to generate power.
Oh,
so
wow, man! I didn't know about this. This is really cool.
Explaining here, a decade ago, about 40% of the country's electricity came from coal, like just coal. And coronavirus is part of the story, but not all of it.
It's awesome, man.
When we went into lockdown, obviously the electricity demand plummeted. The national grid responded by taking power plants off the network. The 4 remaining coal-fired plants were amongst the first to be shut down. So they shut them down first, knowing that they could cope with they had the extra capacity. So
brilliant, man.
They apply to Britain only. Northern Ireland obviously not on the national grid.
I'll forget about that. Yeah.
It reveals just how dramatic the transformation of energy systems been over the last decade. So it's telling you there, 3% of the country's electricity came from wind and solar 10 years ago, and I think now the UK has the biggest offshore wind industry in the world, as well as the largest single wind farm completed off the coast of Yorkshire last year.
Yorkshire.
The country's biggest. So I'm sure there's a little breakdown somewhere down here on where is it at? So apparently as well, so there's the Drax power plant as well. No longer burns coal. It burns. Where is it at?
Is that the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah, the invisible guy. It burns wood pellets instead, which have a little to no carbon emissions. Apparently, yeah, wood pellets. Which also, it's like a byproduct of like forestry. So it's not just something, they don't just harvest the trees for it. It's like a waste product, I think they were saying.
Oh wow, man.
Cool. So it's a fuel that's viable, or more viable than coal. You know, which is not very viable.
Seems like it'll definitely help with air pollution and stuff that will be coming on recently quite a bit. Yeah.
So breaking it down, renewables were responsible for 37% of electricity supplied to the network versus 35% for fossil fuels. This is this year so far. Nuclear has accounted for about 18%, and imports for the remaining 10% or so, according to the figures from the online environmental journal Carbon Brief. So far this year, renewables have generated more electricity than fossil fuels, and that's never happened before. And we're only halfway through the year as well, so remains to be seen what the demand on the coal power plants will actually be once everything opens back up properly. But I imagine it's going to be slow and steady reopening of pretty much everything. So we'll see, and I think it marks a massive shift.
Definitely,
we've proven we can do it.
Yeah,
more than anything, and it's an emerging industry as well. I know, just off job availability and like bigger companies are starting to invest in it. So the likes of Maersk and all the big companies like that have invested a lot in wind power in the UK.
We've got quite like a good I can't remember what it was, but we looked at something together. I can't remember exactly what it was, but like for wind power, we've got like quite a good we get a good amount of energy from it, I think.
It's quite a high percentage of the grid is from renewables. So obviously included in renewables, you've got hydroelectric power as well, which is dams. And solar as well. You got to include solar.
It's like what I said to you though as well. Once you know you do make this switch to renewable, it's going to be maybe a little bit more costly at the beginning, but once it's fully kind of implemented, you'll end up saving so much more money, and it will end up being cheaper. You know, once it's kind of fully into gear, fully implemented. I think so. It's just kind of in the interim is the only problem. And obviously it takes time as well. It's not something that can happen overnight.
Right, it's gone from being something that was largely disregarded in this country as I'd say we were of the similar opinion of what America stands on. It is well, when I say America, I mean the government currently. Okay, it's an issue, but we're not really going to make a massive change. But to the credit of everyone involved with that, we have gone and put that infrastructure in place now, and now we're seeing the benefits. Reducing the carbon emissions is massive. The problem with it is everyone has to follow suit. I know America pulled out of the joint. What was it again? The summit.
Was it the Paris Accord or something?
Yeah, something. Yeah, so they're no longer a member of that, which is all to do with climate change, which is a problem because you need, especially the bigger producers of carbon emissions, you need them to be on board. China and the US being two of them. I wager Russia is probably up there as well.
I'm having a look. I've got
the major European countries as well, which are getting there as well. I know France is going mainly nuclear, I think. As far as I know.
Wow. Didn't know that.
They've got quite a high percentage of nuclear power plants.
The thing with nuclear though is like that nuclear waste is like one of the worst things ever. Like they literally, I remember when I learned about what they do with nuclear waste,
and they bury
it under the ground. I was thinking, what? So it doesn't go anywhere. It takes it lasts for so long as well. Like it's just there.
It's just hundreds of years before it becomes non-toxic. The problem, well, not the problem, but the way they look at it is reducing carbon emissions first, because we're reaching critical mass with it. Basically, not now. You know, we're on actually pretty good track at the minute. But it's when things start up, how to reduce carbon emissions to a point where we're no longer going to kill the atmosphere in 20 years, because that's probably not a good thing.
I mean, dude, what if for anyone interested in climate change, if you just look at the fact that for the last 8 years in a row, it's been the hottest year ever on record. So we've broke the record consecutively 8 years in a row for the hottest year ever. So check that out if you want to look into it a bit more.
I think people have moved away from denying it, but the severity of it still, I think some people will dispute. But to be honest, this industry is really taken off, especially the wind powered one as well. So it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's not like they're taking all the jobs away from power plants and saying, right, that's it. There's always going to be jobs in the energy industry. We're always going to need electricity. Like, it's just where do we source it? That's the thing. But yeah, that was really cool. So it'll be tonight. Yeah. Tonight at 12 will be the 2-month mark.
Gary says there's a very, very big tunnel in Finland for nuclear waste. So
right.
That's quite interesting.
I mean, I guess Elon Musk will try and like ball it all up and shoot it into the sun or something to keep it burning forever, and then
or he'll put it
I guess.
Or he'll weaponize it and then he'll use it to nuke Mars, so he can terraform Mars, so he can make it into a habitable planet, which is one of his ideas that he has.
You do what you want. Honestly, nobody owns Mars. Just let him go. Just see Elon.
It was literally an idea he had. He said he was going to like nuke Mars, so the ice poles in Mars would melt, forcing it to like
water.
So,
you need to create water, right? So he was going to create the atmosphere with the smoke clouds. And then, but make sure both the caps would melt so that there was sustainable water. And I mean, it might work. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. It might work. Maybe. Back to the more depressing topic of like the police state that is the world, the more Orwellian nightmare that we live in, or not. Based on this article, I thought this one was kind of good. Not that I really trust IBM. A company with a sketchy past.
You crashed, bro.
Oh no. Oh dear.
Okay, back.
My internet connection is
little mini crash there, but
stable apparently.
Yeah. You crashed for like 2 seconds, but you're back now.
Yeah. Okay. So IBM. I mean, look them up. They've done some questionable things in the past. But what they've done recently, I think this was yesterday actually. Oh no, sorry. The night. It was yesterday. So IBM is walking away completely from the facial recognition business. So they asked Congress in America for police reform, and they completely left the business of developing facial recognition technology. So technology that's in cameras. We have it in this country now, where basically like a police van will have a camera on it that can detect your face and run it scan through a database. To see who you are, essentially. This has been implemented in America in a lot of things. I know there was a doorbell company that it integrated it with it to try and solve crimes like burglaries and stuff.
I think I can remember. That sounds quite familiar now you mentioned that.
The security concern is that obviously then they've just got a camera that's constantly monitoring your house and constantly monitoring you. But anyway, IBM is walking away completely from the facial recognition business. The CEO announced yesterday in a letter urging Congress to act against police misconduct and regulate the way technology can be used in law enforcement. So part of the letter said, IBM no longer offers general purpose IBM facial recognition or analysis software. IBM firmly opposes and will not condone uses of any technology, including facial recognition, offered by other vendors for mass surveillance, racial profiling, violations of basic human rights and freedoms, any purpose which is not consistent with our values and principle of trust and transparency. So that's a lot of words.
Yeah, for
basically
sure.
what he was saying is they don't want to participate by assisting the police in racially profiling or mass surveilling or violating anyone's basic human right or freedom in terms of the ability, specifically I think in this case, to protest peacefully.
For sure.
It's quite a scary little quote towards the bottom of this, if I can find it. So a recent report from 10, which is a company who's looked into this, found that more than 45 companies actively advertising facial recognition for real-time surveillance to both private and government clients are concerned about the use of such software. And this is come up during the obviously the current protest movement. So the thing is, there's up to, at least that we know of, 45 companies developing technology that can pick out your face in a crowd and map you to that location, as well as store information on a database. So when he's talking about where did he say it? It was the software bit. So including facial recognition technology, which would be the cameras and the monitors, and then you've got the where's it gone? So yeah, that doesn't just include the cameras, it also includes the software that it runs on. So the fact that it'll scan through a database and say who you are, they also developed that. And basically IBM have turned around and said, we're not doing this anymore.
Good, man.
Do you want to live in a police state? And no was the answer. So there's a proposed bill, the Justice in Policing Act, including limits on the use of facial recognition, both by body cameras and other cameras and recording devices. The bill also calls for a study on issues relating to the constitutional rights of individuals on whom facial recognition technology is used, and the issues relating to limitations on the use of facial recognition technology. So basically, there's a proposed bill that will limit the amount of cameras that can detect your face and provide information on that. I looked into it a little bit more because I love all this kind of stuff. Well, I don't love it. I just like to be aware of it. But basically, under the Human Rights Act of, I think it was 1988, you have the right to privacy, both in your life and your family's life, and this would be a massive infringement on it. Especially when it's being where it's being deployed, when you're exercising your right to protest, that is directly infringing on that. What we're going to do in this country with it, I don't know. In America, it looks like there's going to be some serious lobbying for some legislation to protect your rights, or the rights of Americans. We'll see what happens in this country.
Yeah, that's one to watch out for then, obviously, right? It's we can stay up to date on that.
It's another hellscape to dive into and read about, but it's definitely worth being aware of. I
mean, it feels super 1984, right?
Yeah.
It has,
What you've got to think about is every time a new bit of technology comes out, is there'll always be some kind of organisation that's looking to seize it for their own benefit. And that does not, don't discount the government in that, or not necessarily the government, the police or other companies, like private advertising. It's going to be a massive thing. Think about your phone. Apple use it. Apple use facial recognition. So do Huawei. They use facial recognition as well. It's not just, infringing on your rights, it's also infringing on your privacy. So just have a think about it. I agree with you, Lynn, saying against all of this spying stuff, also done already. Yeah, so you're right, done through your smartphone and your Alexa, etc. If you read the privacy policy on things like your Alexa Home Assistant or your Google Home, you'd throw the thing in the bin, I think.
We spoke about that before, right? Well, like no one reads the terms and conditions. No one reads the privacy policies for anything. So
the other issue is, my other issue is, their privacy policy is all well and good, but there's been multiple instances where big companies like Samsung and Amazon as well have just outright lied. They said they're not going to do something, and then they just did it anyway. And then they try to spin it as the Amazon one. It was recording people, and they claimed it was to try and understand accents. And the other one was the Samsung smart TVs had a voice recognition feature for you to turn it on and off. And apparently they just recorded people for like 6 months, and it was an accident. And it's like, okay,
what? How have I never heard about that? That's so crazy, dude.
But now I don't trust you. Like I don't trust your product, because that can happen by accident. Yeah. I don't want that to be on record. Like I don't want. And the thing that winds me up the most with it is nothing to hide, nothing to fear. But all that's doing is encouraging like authorities to just monitor you until you do something wrong.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works. You're innocent until proven guilty. You cannot just be surveilled at all times. Like, it's just not right.
I know.
It's not fair. We live in a democracy. We don't live in a communist or a fascist dictatorship where everything you do is monitored, and anything you say that's slightly out of tune with the regime is punished, and you have the book thrown. It's not how it works.
For sure, man.
In
Definitely.
this country, and it should never be that way.
Gary's
rightly pointing out, look at the Snowden blew the lid off the surveillance program in America with the NSA in 2013.
Yeah, I remember when all that happened. Yeah.
Edward Snowden, probably the biggest example of someone who he was in there. He was an inside man on it, and he knew all about it.
Yeah.
And then he was that sick of it, he toppled the lot. He just said, "Look, I'm not doing this anymore." And now he's a Russian citizen, I think, or he's seeking refuge in Russia.
Is he still in Russia?
I think so. I think he lives in Russia now. Yeah. When everything is safe, you're always going to get someone who tries to exploit something. But I just thought this was cool. I thought if to bring about real change, like I was saying before, it's going to have to be the big companies. And you can look at IBM's history, and they've done some shady stuff in the past.
They've been going since the 80s, right? Like they've been longer, like a big company, like since 70s even, yeah. Because they've all, I remember they've if you watch a lot of films, like retro films,
I have a feeling.
I
was going to say it's more than that. It's like the early 1900s, because they got accused of doing a bunch of deals with the Nazis. Look into their history, sorted. But
that's so crazy.
The point I thought was good from this one is if you want to affect real change, you're going to need the big companies. The market leaders are going to have to take a stand and say, look, this isn't happening. And I think it's the same in the police force. Like they're going to have to take action internally and try and root out these problems. So I thought it was good.
Definitely.
And like I was saying, this isn't action. This isn't just changing the profile picture and tweeting out something. They've tried to do something to positively affect change. Whether it's the right thing, I don't know. But at least they're doing something. Did
you see that thing here from the major advertiser pulled out of Facebook?
No, didn't see that.
I can't remember what it was, but there was a huge advertiser pulled out of Facebook recently, and they apparently Facebook gets a lot of money from the targeted ads from them or something. They're like a huge company, and I'm paraphrasing this because I don't have the article at hand. But they were basically saying that they didn't want to be associated with Facebook because that, Facebook was putting misinformation on there, and Facebook came out and publicly said, there's obviously that famous thing where AOC is running Zuckerberg, and he says that he's not going to take down misinformation. He says that
leave it up there.
It's on them to take it down.
He said, did he not say something like we want all opinions to be expressed, and we want people to be able to make up their own minds, or something like that. It was something to that effect, that he was basically making it out like he hid behind freedom of speech, essentially.
But a major advertiser pulled out recently. I'll try and dig the article up, but
that's all right.
Yeah,
I can well imagine it, to be honest. We haven't even covered. Did we manage to cover Twitter's war with Trump? Did we talk about that last week?
No, we didn't talk about that. But this is ongoing, and I think it's pretty interesting.
This one sort of slipped the net, really, because of all the other stuff that was going on. But I mean, it was hard to miss it. Basically, Twitter attached some fact checking disclaimers under two of Trump's tweets about mail fraud, like voter fraud in America. And then Trump basically tweeted out saying that he could destroy Twitter if he wanted to, and he was gonna revoke I think it's Article 230 of a certain bill that protects social media and tech companies from not being responsible for what's on the platform or something like that. He's basically gone to war with Twitter because they fact checked him, and he didn't like it because they were right and he was wrong. Look into it if you guys want. Don't take my word for it. Have a little look. But they attached it was like a warning, a disclaimer, directly underneath his tweet. I'll see if I can find the name. Oh, I've clicked on video.
Also, so this has been ongoing, and obviously there's much more that we're going to get to. But since then, obviously, many countries came out, like Germany and other countries, and they were like, well, if Twitter wants to move the headquarters to here, they're perfectly welcome to.
Twitter also, interestingly, you talked about Facebook. Twitter banned political adverts, I think before the start of the year, whereas Facebook just sort of kept that one quiet and were like, no, we're just going to keep doing it. I think, there's a screenshot there. So
I mean,
just to
I'm a
show
pretty
you guys.
sorry. I'm a fan of Jack Dorsey. I mean, we've covered Twitter for a while, and there's a lot of stuff that he's done recently, which has been, I think, in my eyes, pretty good.
So Gary's
So,
just saying,
yeah.
can you imagine if Snowden didn't blow the lid on it, what would be happening now? Well, yeah, exactly. We'd never know. That's the problem.
But unfortunately, though, I think that Snowden exposed it, but I don't know if much changed. I don't know.
Oh,
If,
well, I think
so,
it's just people are more aware of it now, so it's become...
Yeah, definitely.
The thing is, exposing things like that, you force politicians to acknowledge it, and you force them to talk about it, and at least, like I say, at least acknowledge it, and then there's a discussion around it.
For sure.
It's not going on in the shadows anymore. But yeah, there's the tweet anyway. So there is no way, zero, that the mail-in ballots will be anything less than substantially fraudulent. He was basically saying that the election was going to be rigged because of mail-in ballots and mailer fraud. And Twitter basically attached this little blue thing underneath that was get the facts about mail-in ballots.
Yeah.
And Jack Dorsey said,
amazing.
"Look, you can threaten us all you want. We're still going to do it."
So there's been another one since then, right?
Yeah,
you seen the other one?
Yeah.
So since then, Trump also wrote something quite inflammatory about the riots and the protesting, and Twitter hid the post because they said that it breaks like
hate
one of their
speech,
policies for hate speech and inciting violence.
Yeah.
And it was a post that Trump said, and basically what they wrote, Twitter said, this breaks our guidelines. But if you want to view the tweet, you can view the tweet. But they hid it, as they said, it did break the guidelines. So that was something else there. Because they said, well, he's such a big name that we're not going to delete his tweet, which they could do. But they said, we're just going to hide it because it's breaking our policy.
Yeah, I think he said he basically signed an executive order looking at removing the legal protection they had. I think the main issue is that they'll always come back to it. It's a private business. I think a lot of people have been critical of Twitter to say that they're too busy silencing them and that. I think the only way for them to do it is to provide the fact-checking sort of option. And then it's fair on both sides if all major political parties that have that level of scrutiny on them. Right, we've blabbered on about Trump for long enough. Do we have a survey link for this week, Daniel?
We do, mate. Yeah, it should be there. Bye, Lynn.
Lynn says she's got to go.
Thank you. Cool. I appreciate that as always. I've got a link to the album that you sent in last week, the Tom Mouse Smith. So there's an album review of it there. I'll not play it on stream because it lags the window. Like every time I play a video, it pretty much crashes my computer when I'm streaming. But there's an album review and a little preview of the album in there that I'll pop in the description. So appreciate that. There's also the survey link which I've put in there. I'll not play the alarm because I haven't got it loaded, and again I don't want to lag everyone to death.
Crash the computer with the alarm.
Aye. So I'll put that in. So check that out. So this guy's a local musician. He's only 16 years old, I think. And this was I don't know if this was his debut album, but it's his latest album. But check it out. It's quite a good review as well. It's quite fair. I also found a list of 46 of the best documentaries on Netflix.
Right on, dude.
I haven't seen them all, but the first two I have. So there's the Filthy Rich, which is the Jeffrey Epstein one. And there's a Louis Theroux LA Stories series on there. If you didn't catch that on BBC, it's on Netflix now.
Fantastic, man.
There's a few really good ones on there. Obviously, Tiger King's on there and Carol Bass. So yeah, have a little look at that. And like I was saying the other week, if you don't pay for Netflix and you've already had your trial, the little secret is if you just register a new email address, you should be all right to just get another month's trial.
Does that still work? That's been going since when I was in school. People used to do that.
Yeah,
but,
so have a little look at that.
There you go.
Or maybe just if you've got an alternate source of finding documentaries, you know what to do. I don't have to give you any advice on that. So yeah, the survey's in there. If you guys could complete that, what I'm going to do is put the mental health and other service links on. Let me see the general links. So we've got help with mental health. You've got struggling to find information for COVID-19, and you've got domestic abuse helplines and websites on there as well. So I'm going to leave that on as always for the last sort of 5 minutes or so. I'll leave that on for 5 minutes.
Cool.
Appreciate you guys being here.
Cool.
Sorry if it was a bit ranty today. I sort of lost it a little bit
Yeah.
2 or 3 times. I was saying to Daniel,
Sure.
like, I'm not going to go overboard. And then
Yeah.
every time I talked about a subject, I just went overboard. So sorry.
Yeah, cool. So, like, yeah, at the end of the day, guys, we hope you enjoyed it. And just in closing, obviously, anything we say, it's just our opinion. And if you disagree with us, that's fine. If you agree with us, that's also fine. And we generally try to keep it as neutral as we can. And yeah, it's
Gary's saying some good news: AJ versus Fury in 2021. So yeah, some cracking news.
But yeah, that is brilliant news. I'm definitely looking forward to that because and it'll probably be in like Wembley Stadium or something, so it'll be awesome. So
cool. Right, I'll leave the general links up there. Get in touch if you've got any good news stories or whatever. And cheers for coming. And yeah, cheers, man. Appreciate that. I'll see you on, I think, the next stream. What's the next stream? I can't remember.
Friday. We have a special guest, and then on Monday, I'm not sure what we'll got for Monday.
We'll see. We'll sort it out. Check Facebook.
And if you subscribe, as we say, guys, you're gonna get the notifications every time we go live. So
yeah, I've dropped some links in the description if you want to check some stuff out. Give us a shout if you come across anything in the week as well. And we'll see you soon.
Okay.